are now listening to the Fantasy Standard Podcast on Talkdown TV with P and Ryan.
Welcome to the Fantasy Standard Podcast on Talkdown TV. This is P. If you're watching, it means you're on YouTube, and we kindly ask that you drop a like and hit that subscribe button. If you're listening, it means you're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Audio Boom, and all other podcast platforms. We also kindly ask that you hit that subscribe button and leave a review. Really quick before I introduce our guest, I wanted to shout out our sponsor. Our sponsor is Pootie's Surf and Turf. You hook them, we'll cook them. For more information, dial 1-800, hit him with the Kenny G. That's 1-800, hit him with the Kenny G. Our first guest of the season, shout out to Ryan for giving up his seat, his co-host seat. As you know, the only consistent thing here throughout the year, obviously, I think due to schedules, is that I'm kind of filling that co-host seat with the rest of the league. Ryan sometimes gives it up, again, because of schedules. So we have someone new here joining us from a secret location in NFL headquarters, sitting probably next to Roger Goodell. We have the four-time Lights Out League champ, our reigning champ. The standard is the standard himself, our commish, HHM. What's up, brother?
What's up, man? How are you? Good to be back.
I'm good, man. What do you think of our sponsors?
Pootie's
Surf and Turf.
Surf and Turf. Pootie's Surf and Turf is well recommended by everyone. Everyone got it.
Although I hear they only sell beef patties, so I don't understand what's going on there. Yo, I appreciate you being here. I feel like I love having you on as a guest. Aside from everybody else from the league, I feel like everybody brings their own little element. But I feel like you have your own like stat department, and you always bring like that nuanced numbers that we kind of overlook sometimes. What I guess let's talk about the start of the NFL season. Do you think that, and I talk to Ryan about this all the time, do you think that the teams not playing their starters during the preseason is a gift and a curse? Do you think that's kind of what's causing these muddied waters in the beginning of the year?
I believe so, in my opinion. Just judging by the first 3 weeks, I don't think Arizona played many starters.
No, I think they had Kyler actually coaching. I believe he was calling plays.
Yeah. Again, they're looking out for player safety. And this is probably the first season that I could recall that we haven't had any major injuries in camp or in preseason.
True.
But you're starting to see a lot of soft tissue injuries with a lot of these, especially running backs and wide receivers.
Yeah.
Rondell Moore being one of them.
Yeah. You got Wan'Dale Robinson, who kind of falls in the same mold.
Right. Keenan Allen. Well, Keenan's always had soft. Keenan Allen reminds me of Will Fuller.
It's funny because they're two different players.
Definitely. But to go back to your question, to answer your question, I believe so. But I think I would probably prefer it this way. I would rather have my player have a soft tissue injury rather than tear ACL, MCL, or Achilles in preseason.
Yeah.
Playing meaningless snaps, but it has affected the way teams have come out and played on both sides of the ball, I believe.
Yeah, I agree. You have, like, the funny thing is that always looking back at the beginning of the year towards the end, you kind of see which teams are still there versus which teams were kind of pretenders in the beginning of the year, due to the fact that defenses, what is the old adage that offenses are always ahead of defenses in the beginning of the year?
Exactly.
Yeah, and then now you stretch it out. Now you have no starters playing, and now they're trying to get caught up. Like, the run games aren't really working as well. You think of Indianapolis, who you think of them being a run first team, and that's not really working out for him. Matt Ryan kind of is under pressure because the run game isn't really holding him down like we expected. And you look across the board and you look a lot of NFL teams, that's kind of the last thing that's, that they're still solidifying. And then on top of that, the defenses, I expect a lot of these defenses that we thought were going to be great defenses in the beginning of the year that might be out on the waiver wire right now. I expect them, or benches, I expect them to be caught up by the end of the year.
Yeah, well, that's for sure. Offensive line, man, a lot of, like I said, Cincinnati being the first one off of the top of my mind.
Right? Didn't they just buy that whole offensive line?
They spent like 92 million, 94 million in the offseason to upgrade. And you know, when you got Joe Mixon averaging, you know, about two yards a carry, 2.5 yards a carry.
Yeah.
Burrow's the most sacked quarterback through 3 weeks. Maybe haven't gelled together. Maybe it's the lack of playing together.
Well, there's two things now, right? Because a new offensive line with new players, you naturally that takes time anyway.
Exactly.
But you add on top of that the fact that they have no reps in the preseason together. Right. So I think that it's twofold, and game by game, it looks like they're getting better. But you pay that money, you'd like to see the returns a little bit quicker, especially when a guy like a Joe Mixon is getting all of the touches he's getting, right? Let's move on real quick. Because I do have now that we're in the fourth week, one thing that I constantly see is these experts, right? That and one of the things that they're always saying, and it's not like we all don't see it. It's like, oh, you got to sell high on this guy or buy low on this guy. So essentially, the trade market is already being encouraged. To me, I feel like we're still in an evaluation period, right? I don't know about you, but me personally, I only put out feelers for like role players, not for any of main people, right? Like instead of, going through the waiver wire, I maybe look on someone's bench and say, okay, maybe there's a trade there that I can make for this piece that's not going to really cost as much. But when is it too soon to trade in fantasy, I guess is what I'm trying to ask.
I think it's too soon to trade. I think you at least got to give it 3-4 weeks. First 3-4 weeks, teams gelling, the way defenses are playing, coaching staff obviously matters. We see what's going on in Denver. You just got a evaluation process again. It takes a couple of weeks. I know we only play 17 games, but the first 3-4 weeks is kind of the barometer that you kind of set to see, is Jacksonville really a contender? Jacksonville looks pretty good.
They look good. Those edge rushers, man, they're legit. Yeah,
you got Joe Flacco being fantasy wise, top 5 points per game.
Yeah.
Trevor Lawrence, new coach. You get Urban out of there. Trevor Lawrence is looking pretty good.
Pause there. For those of you that don't think that a coach has an impact on their team, that it's all about the quarterback, look at Urban Meyer and look at Peterson's essentially using the same team. He just added guys like Kirk, right? Like he added guys like Ingram, but that's essentially the same team.
Pretty much. Yeah, coaching matters.
So what you're saying is you almost have to balance patience with aggressiveness, right? Especially some of the teams that are maybe looking at an 0-3 start. 1-2, you can't really panic, right? Because you're still in there. But it almost pays to be a little patient in the beginning of the year and kind of evaluate or reevaluate and not jump the gun or not like listen to these quote unquote experts, which that's another thing I wanted to talk to you about. Do you feel like now there are more draft experts or pundits than there ever been? We have a podcast, right? But we don't do this for the masses. We essentially do this for our league, right? We do this to talk to each other. So I feel like every Twitter post or source that I go to have, you look at the comments and it's like, oh, who do I start? This person or this person? And essentially it's your lineup, but you're telling this guy who says he's an expert, who can speak well, he's telling you to what to do with your team. Do you feel, and again, it could be that just now we're on social media a bit more. There are more people on Instagram. There are doctors. There are more than one doctors. I remember it was just like this one doctor I used to follow. Now it's a lot of doctors giving out all this, medical information. But what do you think about the community? Do you think it's a good thing or a bad thing that we have so much now?
I think it's a gift and a curse. I think they're so-called experts just because they have the platform, whether
Right.
they have 2 billion, followers on Twitter, they have their own YouTube channel, and you can't. I don't really necessarily, they call Matthew Berry an expert. Matthew's been doing it, pioneering the game.
He's the OG essentially.
Yeah, now everything. There's another analyst or so-called expert that's been preaching on Twitter for the past 2 years to kind of integrate a fantasy expert on a live during the pregame shows, during some of these prior to the NFL games,
right?
Whatever channel it is, and Matthew Berry's, you see him on Sunday Night Football now,
right?
Breaking into things, but again, I don't know what you could consider an expert, because again, he's watching the same game that we're watching, but again, it varies between. I'll just say myself and you. I don't want to call anybody else out. I literally sit there, if I have the time with kids and stuff, I sit there and watch a good 8 to 10 hours worth of football on Sundays. I watch 4 hours on Thursday, and I give about 3.5, 4 hours on Monday nights.
Right.
So what makes them an expert when they're watching the same game as I am? Yeah, they could crunch numbers and provide all the data, but
I think that's it. You nailed it there. I think it's because they present the numbers that sometimes we are, and I'm gonna be honest, maybe we don't have time or are too lazy to look up ourselves.
That's true. That's the gift part of it, because I don't sit there with a pen and pad and see what's the I'll use Chase Edmonds because he just played a couple nights ago, right?
Right.
So Chase Edmonds is on my team. I decided not to start him, and that's not me. I'm not down on the player. They didn't matter the matchup. Some of us get excited on Thursday night and we just want to watch one of our players.
Big time.
So you kind of detach yourself from that, and I could look at the box score and say, hey, he scored 2 touchdowns last week. He has 14 points. I'm going to start him. He scored again this week, but he played 17 snaps or 17 opportunities.
Right. Mostert essentially handled most of the rushes.
Mostert had 50. So again, it all depends on again how you watch the game. I think most fantasy players are savvy enough to not only look at the box score and actually sit there and watch the game. And if you can't watch it live, NFL Network has replays for days during the week.
Yeah, you can go on YouTube and look at the most relevant stats, or even if you have like a Verizon Files, they have the on demand where you can go back and watch all of the games. We're not sponsored by Verizon. I'm just saying it could be any of those cable outlets. One thing that happens when like even with this fantasy show, and I've noticed that people have kind of tried to reach out to me for fantasy advice. And look, I've won chips, right? And I'm a decent fantasy player, but there's a bit of guilt that's attached when I recommend someone and the person follows who I recommend and that person shits the bed.
Exactly.
I hate giving out fantasy advice, not because I want to hoard the information, but it's just I would feel terrible if I told you to start someone and that person shit the bed. And you see that all the time now in the comments where the people go back at the expert, like, yo, you told me to start this person and this person stuff. And then they're always giving themselves an out. And I drown some of that noise. The reason I say that is to lead into one common thing I tell people when they're asking me who should I start or should I make this trade is I no longer tell them what I think. I view their value as.
Right.
Now what I do is I tell them, find people that you want to root for, that on Sundays that you're going to have fun rooting for. It's super broad, but it's better than me telling you a player that I like.
Right.
And it not working out for them. And you're now having a miserable time rooting for them.
Exactly. And I think we're starting to see that a little by little in our league. There's some pickups that have been made in the past, week or two. And I think that's going off of as you said, a player that you want to root for rather than going to listen to Matthew Berry, Field Yates, and everybody else.
Exactly.
I'm guilty of that because, the whole off season, all these experts recommended Cole Kmet as a breakout
he was on my list.
Top 5. He scored his first touchdown and his only touchdown in the preseason. We into it. I think he's had maybe 6 targets in like 3 weeks or whatever.
Yeah. Meanwhile, the Bears just are running. That's all they're doing.
Exactly. So again, that's when you got to turn off that switch and say, I'm going to watch football. I'm going to make my own choices. I don't need to go on Twitter or any other fantasy pros or whatever,
Yeah.
Because again, you got to watch the game yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. Just, it falls back on, there's a lot of luck involved in fantasy.
Definitely.
A lot of luck. Notice the player that's the newest in your league. It happens in our league too, right? Notice the new person that you feel doesn't even look at their lineup. Notice how much success they have when they just kind of go through the motions of filling a lineup and keep it moving. So it falls back on one word, and that's fun. Are you having fun rooting for your players? Are you having fun rooting for your team? And another thing, as a Buffalo Bills fan and HHM, I think I favor you, you and John the most because you're Bills fans, right? So it's a brotherhood we have. It also, it should not take away, it should not deter from your fandom to your team.
Of course not.
So those are the things that I feel that I wanted to talk about a little bit, and kind of shifting gears a little bit since we have you here. Do you have any advice? And you don't have to give away any secrets, but it's something that I might ask more guests more often. Do you have any advice for people who are struggling to find a way and need kind of a new strategy to look at things from a fantasy football perspective?
Stop following the experts. Follow your gut. Watch football.
Watch it. Just watch it, right?
You got 2 eyes. Watch the game.
Yeah.
And not to get too much into Monday night is the best opportunity. Especially if you got kids. Like I don't want to listen. I don't even know who does Monday Night Football anymore. I go to the Manning Cast. I get more information that helps me listening to Peyton and Eli break down the game than listening to, I don't know who Collinsworth who
does Monday.
Maybe it's for her. I actually like.
No, Herb Street and Michaels are doing a prime. Okay. So it is Collinsworth and the guy that was doing, I forget his name, but he's an ESPN lifer. Like he's been in it for the Tirico.
Oh, Mike Tirico. Yes.
Yeah. So it's him. It's a great, but you're right. I think I get more football knowledge from watching someone like an Eli or a Peyton.
Exactly.
Yeah, you're right. That's good advice. Appreciate that.
Again, you're 0-3, you're 1-2. Again, keep doing the same thing and expecting different results. We're already after this week, we're a quarter of the season is done already. We're 17 games. This is now baseball. We don't play 82 games, so quarter of the season is done. You got to make adjustments, and I just hope in our league, there's not any. We haven't seen any yet panic trading.
But on the flip side of that is there is such thing as being too patient. So right. I think it helps to not make moves just to make moves, but it also and I remember I always go back to his name is Kaiser Soze now, right? So we're gonna reference him. I remember when we had our waiver order the way we used to, and he would always be at the top of the standing somewhere, right? But he would kind of dwell on the fact that he didn't have that waiver priority. So it's almost like he was a step behind. Now you've noticed he shifted to be a little more aggressive and make the move ahead of time, right? So it pays to do that too.
Right.
But not make a move just to make a move. And you're seeing a lot of that balance now in our league. One
last thing. One last thing is if you're 0-3, and this is not just for our league, this is across the board to anyone that watches the show. if you're 0-3, 0-4, 1-3, 1-4 as the season goes on, and you hit up the waiver wire and you're just stashing players, just to stash them, just to be ahead of the game. Me personally, I don't think that's the strategy. You need win now. You don't need to stash a player that's being suspended, or that's coming off of an Achilles injury, and it might take them another 3 weeks to get ramped up. By the time you look at week 10, week 11, you're
and they're still rehabbing.
Yeah, your season is pretty much done. So you got to be smart with the waiver wire pickups, the moves, and even the drops. Again, patience. It's only been 3 weeks.
Yeah, very good point. You have anything else to add before we go to the other side?
No, sir.
All right, let's do it. So again, backstory is our league is this show is called the Fantasy Standard, not because we think we are the standard in fantasy, although it pays to listen to our advice. It's our league it's a dinosaur. We are a standard scoring league, PPR and all that. We respect it, but to me, it adds value to players that are not valuable personally. So I'm glad we're a dinosaur league. We're still a standard league. So this is our Lights Out League, who's been going on 10 years running, 10 years plus. And we'll see you on the other side.
Ladies and gentlemen, a brief moment to recap the Lights Out Fantasy Football League. Lights Out League, where you never know what Nelson will do next.
And we're back. That was quick. Okay, so let's get right to it. What I'm gonna do is share my screen per usual. Josh, make sure Josh is facing. You're okay. We need that this week. Let me share my screen. I have the matchups zoomed in. Hopefully you can see it. Let me know if you can see it.
Yep.
Okay, so this was last week's matchups. As you can see, one thing that's a common theme with last week was the scoring. It's not much of it, aside from certain teams that had certain players. Of course, we'd be remiss if we didn't mention the biggest blowout. John getting in the win column with a big blowout. You like that? If you're Kaiser Soze, you don't like that. But yeah, it was my matchup with Dead Presidents. I always say that I always have a tough time with him for some reason. He always has good teams, but I managed Monday night. You know what happens on Monday nights when I feel like I'm gonna lose a matchup? I loosely watch the game, right? Because it's a gut punch when you lose in fantasy a little bit, right? It's a little bit of a gut punch. So I was in the chat kind of like looking, and I'll share a like or something like that. But what I started doing, I was like, you know what? There is value. To your point, what you said earlier was there's value in me watching, right? I have to watch to see what's going on. And I'm glad I did. Not because I won. I mean, I got the dub, but the Giants defense is what he had. And there were no sacks, no picks. Like when I started noticing that, I was like, wow. So that was good. One thing I do want to mention when you see this is you'll see the 3-0 teams. There's 3 undefeated teams left.
Yep.
And to me, I think out of those 3-0 teams, Carl's that's the one that I zoom in on. That to me, from top to bottom, you look at his bench, and one we got to give Carl his props. Suicide Squad, they draft well year to year. It feels like they're always super competitive, and they have players that they break out.
Definitely. Carl. I want to say Carl's probably been the most consistent fantasy manager for the past 2 years, 2+ years.
Right.
He's a Giants fan, which sorry to hear that. But as far as fantasy stuff, he's not one to make too many waiver wire moves.
Mm-hmm.
He's
patient.
He's patient. He doesn't try to get over on anyone trading wise. I give Carl a lot of respect and a lot of props because again, he made it to the championship game last year. He was for the most part of last year, he was the number 1 seed, and I think, right now, I think he's still the number 1 seed.
Yeah, and even when I won my chip a few years ago, I think his first year in the league, I beat Carl.
Yeah, he's definitely been consistent, and again, he's very humble. So
I love that. Yeah, very good point. Humble is good, especially on Humble Pie side. Yeah, so we have CJ, who's also 3-0, a new manager, and I have a source that told me that CJ was going to start Kirk Cousins over Lamar, and he had that in his lineup set that way, and he was talked about out of it by said source. I will never reveal my sources, so stay tuned. But that was a good move. Right? Like, you have a Lamar, you can't really sit him for, he's almost matchup proof. But, we do have a history of success for the first year managers in this league.
Always for the past, 10 plus seasons.
Right. And then rounding up our undefeateds are Nelson, who, Nelson, the last few years has drafted well. I think what's happened with him is 2 things: injuries and in-season management. Those are the 2 things that you almost kind of wait on for Nelson to see what's going to happen. But so far, 3-0, when you have a Josh Allen, you have a Derrick Henry, and you have all of the other pieces you have, you expect that to be the case. So Nelson, shout out to you. We make fun of you when we can because it's fun, but I got to give you your props, man. The 0-3 teams are a bit of a surprise, right? If you look at the A grade, the only A grade for the draft, his team is 0-3. Hootie.
Yeah.
And Dead Presidents, we felt like he had a really good team too. So that's a bit of a surprise.
Yep.
Right?
For Pootie, I think it's a little bit of bad luck. Again, we could kick him for going Austin Eckler with the number 1 overall pick. But I don't think necessarily it's that, because as P will show us in a few minutes.
Yeah, well, actually, let's get into it right now.
Okay.
So you shared in our chat. Our chat is very active, by the way. You shared an interesting stat, a finding. So thanks to your stat department for putting this together. But if you look at the first round picks, Eckler, in order: Eckler, JT, Henry, CMC, Mixon, Cook, Jefferson, Harris, Kupp, Chase, Aaron Jones, and Kamara. And you look at their point output, it's startling. Because if you look at their manager records, you have Eckler 0-3, JT 1-2, Henry, but a lot of that, Henry has 37 points for running back, he heads the pack. Well, Aaron Jones is first, but he has Josh Allen also, so that team is 3-0. CMC 0-3, Mixon 1-2, Dalvin, but that's paired with Carl's really good team, so that's 3-0. But he's not. It's safe to say he's not riding Dalvin to that chip so far, right? You have Jefferson, who's 1-2, Harris, the 3-0 team, but that's not because of Harris. Cooper Kupp 1-2. Cooper Kupp has 52 points, by far more than anyone else in the first round, and that team is 1-2. Jamar Chase, who I have, I'm happy as you can see with how I beat that Presidents in this week. 85 points. If you win with 85 points, I'm not gonna give the win back because I only scored 85. A win is a win, right? Especially at the end of the year. But it's still, you expect more from your first round pick. I feel like this year or lately, first round picks have been less of a hit than ever. It's almost a crapshoot.
Well, when you got, again, the way our league does things is, we're running back heavy. We've always been a running back heavy first round league, and 64% of RB1s that were drafted as RB1s have failed to provide or produce RB1 numbers back. it's transitioning into the more wide receivers, and again, it's Kelsey and Andrews as far as the tight ends. Hey, unless you went Josh Allen, Lamar in the first round, might be struggling a little bit right now. But again, I don't know if that dynamic is going to change as the weeks go on. Throughout the season, we might come back and say, oh no, running back is the way to go, and continue that trend. So we'll see. We still got 14 more weeks, fantasy weeks. So we'll see if that trend really continues or not. And I hope not, because I think the league will be a lot more competitive with those RB1s contributing. I think you won't see scores like 73, 55, 65.
Yeah,
I think we're usually more of 95 and up.
Right.
But we'll see. Again, small sample size.
Yeah, and that's what we go back to. Is this our in-season preseason? Right?
I think so.
Yeah, so it's almost pump the brakes. This could be a sign of things to come, or stand by. It could all change and be completely upside down compared to what it was now. Yeah, it was just interesting. I felt like when you put that up, I had to look back and say, man, back in the day, I felt like back in the day, if my first round pick didn't hit, I have to work extra hard. Injury aside, I have to work extra hard, or my draft have to be close to perfect for me to overcome it.
Yeah. Again, drafting is only one part of the process during the season. In my opinion, there's 3 phases. That's only phase 1. So we'll see. We'll see as the season goes on if this trend continues or not. I don't think it will. That's my opinion. So we'll see.
Yeah. Let's head over to next week's matchups. Just really quick, browse through them, because we have some interesting ones. And, you can neglect the scores. We don't really like, talking about what happened Thursday night for the most part. But if you look here, I got a 1-2 team who can easily get back to 500 and put me back to 500, right? We have Kaiser Soze, so TB12's last dance. We got you and the whole show. Shout out to John, hoping everything's okay down there. We know a lot of places are dealing with the after effects, or still are dealing currently with the hurricane. So definitely thoughts are to every single person that's dealing with it or has been impacted by it. John, we got your back, brother.
John is a Jersey boy. He's not really a Florida guy, so he could. I'm pretty sure he could survive this.
Yeah, built tough.
Built Jersey tough.
Is he gonna survive this matchup with you? That's the question. He had a pretty good start, but that's always a fun matchup between the two of you. We have no struggles, Will, against the number 1 team, 3-0 team. Will CJ stay undefeated? That's the question week to week. How long will this wave, this first year in the league wave, carry him? We got Dead Presidents and Suicide Squad. I think that's an interesting matchup, because don't look at the record for Dead Presidents. I do think he can pack a punch.
Definitely.
You think of the stuff that's going on with CMC, and you hope that that's just coach speak and kind of hoping they don't game plan for CMC. If CMC is playing, that changes this matchup completely. You got Ryan going up against Nelson. That's always a fun matchup, right? Especially now that Nelson does have a formidable team. I feel like Nelson's team could go up against anyone.
Right.
And then we got the troll champ 2 years in a row. We got Shooter going up against Pooty, and who did this shit? God did. That's basically but that's always a fun one. It's a fun one in the chat. I wish everybody here could kind of see the back and forth and the mind games that are going on between them. I will ask you this: for a person like Pooty, and knowing what happened to us in the past where we've dealt with winless records, do you feel like this is a must win for him?
Definitely.
It's a must win.
I think it's a must-win, especially with the team that he drafted. I could see him after this week if he does go down. I know a trade will be coming. Probably won't be with me.
Mhm.
But I could see the panic button being within arm's reach.
He has his front office on the phones right now.
Most likely.
Hey man, he didn't call me. Let's see if we can work something out. I got Rondell Moore for you, brother. Let me get that Eckler up off of you, man. You don't need that. Anything on these matchups that you kind of want to highlight? Anything that we haven't already gone over?
No, I think Carl gave you all the props in the world, but I think that Presidents will come to life this week. Again, not looking at the scores, but that Presidents 24 decent points from his quarterback, pretty average. But I think, and not to get too deep into the matchups, I think this might be the week that Presidents gets their first win. So I guess that's my upset special. Everything else, I think it's pretty close. Nelson's team, Josh Allen, like we mentioned, Derrick Henry. Josh, I believe, dropped back the pass 73 times last game, or he had 73. Not that he threw the ball 73 times, but 73 dropbacks. I think that's going to be scaled back a little bit.
Oh, big time. It's going to be raining too. So this week we'll talk about that too. But
exactly. And then the time and position for Buffalo last week was interesting. We kind of got like a game and a half worth of fantasy points from those players. Because of their time of possession. And that's another thing that people don't look at very much is how much did your fantasy player produce based on time of possession in the game.
Yeah.
You don't have the ball, you're not going to produce.
Exactly. I think, and I'm kind of mad you shared that, but yeah, that's a big one. That's a big one that a lot of us look at. Don't say any more. Anybody here that wants more, they got to pay for the insider package.
Well, I honestly think out of the 12 teams, I want to say there's about 4 of us that would sit there that I know of that actually sit there and give 10 hours. Might be on and off, but 10 hours on Sunday, whether it's watching pre-game shows, fantasy shows, doing their research, and actually sit there and watch Red Zone for 10 straight hours or 9 straight hours, whatever the hell it is.
Yeah, and have their alerting, their notifications to the right resources.
Exactly.
Again, you got to pay for the insider package for that. So would you say your game of the week would be the Dead Presidents and Suicide Squad game?
I think so, because it's desperation. Carl is trying to stay at number 1. He's used to that. But that Presidents, I think, will come alive this week. So I think that's my upset special. I would love No Struggle to be our newcomer. But
damn, that freaking first year wave, bro. It's almost unbeatable in the first 10 weeks of the season.
Yeah, but again, injuries will happen. Bye weeks, I believe, start this week or next week. So, as the Macho Man would say, the cream would always rise to the top.
And especially in this league where you're looking week 8 and everybody's a game within each other.
Exactly.
Right. Except, if Suicide Squad wins this, they're going to help themselves by giving themselves a little cushion, at least a little, next week, it's not as important to win because you're kind of already building a little bit of a lead. But in this league, that can disappear in a heartbeat. So,
hey, you could win 3 in a row, but lose 6 in a row, and your season is pretty much done. It's not how you start, it's how you finish. So we'll see. In season roster management is going to be critical for most of these teams.
Yeah, and maneuverability. Let's see what cream will rise to the top. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Let's move on to. Are you good on that?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's look ahead to week 4. I had this up here, and I also did something new. I wanted to share what Vegas is saying about these games. Also, we can talk about the narratives ourselves. Another thing I want to do is that we are sponsored by Opie's Delta Flights. Comes with complimentary Delta Dons in-flight entertainment and finest synthetic greenery. Opie's Delta Flights, where the Mile High Club is most likely lab grown.
Definitely is lab grown, and definitely some coloration to the product.
Just run it underwater first. It's all love, brother. It's all love. You know, it's funny because I saw Shooter kept posting like the Delta flight thing, and I'm like, what is this? Like takeoff? And I was like, oh, I get it now. So shout out to the sponsors. We love y'all. The first one, this is happening in London, right?
Correct. 9:30 Sunday morning.
Yeah. Do you like those games, those early games?
It takes away a little bit from my Sunday ritual. I think we all have a ritual.
Yeah, I know you're superstitious. You're not superstitious. You're a little stitious.
A little. You know, it cuts into my research, but it's good to know that you have. Again, I played someone on Thursday night that had someone playing, so I'm still on 0 while or maybe no. Yeah, I am on 0. My opponent has 18, so I have someone playing Sunday morning. So by 1 o'clock, I'm hoping to kind of even the score or come close rather than look at the scoreboard at 1 o'clock and I'm down 40, 50 points and
right.
got a lot of point chasing to do. So I kind of like it.
Mm-hmm. I guess as a football fan, it's fun, but as a fantasy manager, it's almost daunting because you're distracted.
Definitely.
Got it.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And then again, we get Kirk Cousins and Andy Dalton in London is probably the only place I would want to see them play because
I will ask that though. So both of these quarterbacks, I feel like, have a history of not showing up in primetime games, right?
Never. Andy Dalton has. And Kirk Cousins last week is probably a good example too. And whenever it's dark, those players don't perform well. They don't like playing in the dark.
So this game is being played at 1 in UK time, right?
Right.
So this technically is not a primetime game. Is not. So do you expect at least a competitive game, something that the UK will be proud to see, or is this going to be?
I think so. As a fan, if I lived out there, I can't remember how much it was, but I think it was like maybe like $300 US dollars to go watch this game. I don't know if I want to pay $300 to watch Andy Dalton and Kirk Cousins. Not that Jameis is, but again, Jameis is a little better in my opinion than Andy Dalton.
Oh, he's better. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Well, he has a better grasp of the offense. He's been in it for a few years.
Right.
And Michael Thomas is out for this. You have Landry, who's questionable, or is he out?
He's questionable. So
Okay.
Thomas is out and Jameis is out. Those are the two big games.
And then on the Vikings side, you have Cook, who had that, again, the reoccurring thing that happens with him pretty much every year is that shoulder subluxation.
Right.
So separated shoulder, in a sense, it's how severe it is. So it's pain management at this point. Do you expect him to play, right?
He's going to play. He's going to play with the harness. He had the same injury last year. I believe it was the same shoulder. They gave him a harness, and he had his best. He came out and
didn't he come off?
Yeah. He went berserk. Yeah.
Yeah. So Vegas has this. Minnesota's favored by 3. They have the over under at 41. So you don't expect a high scoring game, but in the 20s each team.
Yeah. So So it's looking like a 20-17 kind of game, maybe 21-8. Low 20s.
Okay. Then we'll move on to our 1 o'clock slate. We have a division game, Tennessee and Indy in Indy. Indy has the 1-1-1 record. You have no idea where they are because you expected them to be a dominant run team and play good defense. Shaquille Leonard was Shaquille Leonard's first week last week?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, so still a little bit of time, I guess, to get back into form. That defense you expected to bounce back. Division game, you don't know what's going to happen. You have the over/under at 43.5 points, and you have Indy favored by 3 on this one. What kind of are the storylines for you in this game?
I think both teams should just run the damn ball.
right? Because both of these
don't even let them. Don't let either quarterback get sacked. Tannenhill is reverting back to his old Miami Tannenhill.
Yes, I'm glad.
Not having 11 lined up on the outside. Treylon Burks is a promising rookie, but he's no AJ Brown.
No.
Which obviously hinders Derrick Henry's production, in my opinion. But hey, you got two of the best running backs in football.
Yeah.
Just feed him.
Yeah. I feel like these teams, they get caught in the trying to be something they're not. You have Matt Ryan, so now you can sling the ball. Why? Yeah. With Phillip Rivers and with Carson Wentz last year, your bread and butter is running the ball.
Exactly.
Right. So why change what works? And then that offensive line is built for it. And then their wide receivers have essentially just, outside of Pittman, you don't really have anything on the Indy side that you look to and say that's a weapon. You have Naheem Hines coming out of the backfield. That's their other wide receiver.
Exactly, and I think that kind of shows in their record and in the quarterback play, because again, if you don't have that alpha number one wide receiver, it's going to affect your running game big time. Pittman is a good player in my opinion, but he's not going to garner double coverage. I think most teams are just playing zone, and if it's an obvious running play, they're going to stack the box with 8, especially going against Henry or JT.
Yeah, and you have Alec Pierce. I don't know if he's back from his injury, but they're essentially the same wide receiver, right? It's, Paris Campbell, who's, I think he was a first-round pick, never been able to show anything in the league, but he's the guy that could take the top off of defenses, and he just hasn't shown to, number one, to be healthy, and number two, to do anything in the league when he's getting defenses. So, these are two teams that desperately need to go back to what works and what they know works. Derrick Henry and JT. I agree with you on that. The next game, we have the Giants and the Chicago, and up in New York, this is their legacy game, so I think they're wearing their throwbacks in this one.
Yes. What surprises me is the record for both teams. Both teams are 2-1.
Yeah.
Just imagine if Fields could actually pass the ball or open up the offense, it could easily be 3-0.
Yeah, so I'm gonna go with real or not real. Chicago and the Giants, real or not real?
I say not real. I don't think Chicago could keep doing what they're doing and stay competitive in that division. You got Green Bay and Minnesota. I think Green Bay is probably still the favorite. I actually think Minnesota's going to win that division this year. So I don't think so. And then the Giants, the Eagles look pretty good. Cowboys get Dak back in a week, and the Commanders have Carson Wentz, and that's all I have to say.
I love that. I think out of these two, I mean, look, the over-under says everything you need to know about what they feel this offensive output is going to be. They have it at under 39.5. So it wouldn't shock me if it was a sloppy game. I don't know if we're expecting bad weather in New Jersy, because there's only one.
We're getting a little bit of that Ian leftover stuff this weekend, so I think it's going to be a little bit messy. But my thing is, from my sources, there's a lot of big star names that hate coming to the Meadowlands and playing on the turf.
I heard about the turf. Yeah.
So I don't want any of my fantasy players playing in New York. I actually went after I saw Sterling's injury 2 weeks ago. I went back and looked at my team to make sure we don't have anyone coming into MetLife Stadium to play. My big time players. It's gonna be interesting what they do after the season. You gotta do something to that field.
So HHM says Wade. But in this game, it's basically a pick 'em when it's minus 2.5, right? It's safe to say.
I think I'm gonna go with Chicago winning this game. To be honest with you,
the run game. Are you saying because of the run game?
I think that they have to let Fields open it up, man. He can't pass the ball. He can't pass it 12, 15 times a game and expect to win. Their defense isn't that spectacular that they're gonna shut teams. They're gonna have to score points to be able to win. The Giants don't look bad. It's just Kenny G, his flute broke. Wandell's injured. Kadarius is always injured.
Or they just don't like Kadarius and they're just prepping him to trade him. That could be another likely scenario.
Yeah, that could be it. But again, the Giants are 2-0 on the back of Saquon.
Right.
Saquon looks good. Yeah, I love to see Saquon back to his kind of his normal self.
Me too.
As the season goes on, what are you gonna do? You're gonna give him over 400 touches? You're gonna break the kid.
Yeah, I agree. And teams are just gonna not respect Daniel Jones when is it Richie James, your number one receiver? Yeah, I mean, that doesn't scare anybody. No disrespect to James. I think he's a decent player. But yeah, that should be an interesting one to watch. Now this one is the one that you and I probably have a lot of rooting interest in. Not probably, we do. The Buffalo Bills coming off of that gruesome game, the elements, losing half of their team, their offensive line. They had on that last drive, they had an offensive lineman that was playing on a torn ACL.
Mm-hmm.
That goes to show they had no one else after that.
Right.
They were missing their starting secondary, and a slew of other people. And as a Bills fan, I will say I'm not going to make excuses. The Dolphins beat the Bills. I'm gonna go there. But this one, it's like the Bills now have to go to Baltimore and deal with Ian's effects, right? So now it's going to be weather. And what would you prefer your team to be able to do when you have elements?
To run the ball.
Yeah.
I think as a Buffalo fan watching the games a little bit closer than any other games, I don't think Motor should be coming off the field as much as he is. You're experimenting. You're still experimenting with Moss.
I'm gonna add to that. I was, us Bills fans, I'm a nerd. I'll go on YouTube and instead of like looking at other teams, I'll just go and watch interviews and our shows that we have, One Bills Live and stuff like that. And Thurman Thomas is on the show a lot. And Thurman Thomas, I think, gave away why Moss is in there. I think they trust Moss's pass protection more than any other running back. So that's why Moss is in there. Now, what happens is, if you put Moss in there and you only put him into pass protect, other teams are going to notice that and they're going to key in on that. So you have to keep it honest and give him some handoffs, and that's where you get those Moss handoffs. Now, It worked for one play last week. He got a long one, but you'd ideally like, because Motor just gives you so much. He gives you a little bit of that burst. He's a powerful guy for his size, and I just feel like he has just as good hands as any. I mean, Cook who was drafted to be the pass catching guy. Right. I do like how they were using Cook at the end of the game last week.
Yeah, they're starting to ramp him up from first week. I believe his first carry, actually watching the game reminded me of Kareem Hunt. His first NFL carry was a fumble, and we see what Kareem turned out to be. Yeah. But it shows that they have confidence in him, that they're ramping him up. His touches are going up every week. But again, I don't think Motor should come off the field as much as he does. Yeah.
What do you think the snap? So he should be like 70%, and
yeah, definitely 70%. And the other 30 could be split between Moss and
Cook. Yeah, I'm with that. Yeah, I'm with that. So we got Baltimore in Baltimore. That's always tough. The Buffalo's favored by 3. How times have changed, right? Just 2 years ago, they would have had Baltimore favored by more than 3. And the over under at 50 in rainy conditions, you still say, wow, that's kind of a decent amount. So you expect offenses are going to show up to this game. Your boy, Dobbins, no injury designation. So he's fully back from his injury, it looks like, although he's still working himself up. Justice Hill looks to be like he's involved in the offense. He looked really good last week. So when the fantasy pundits were big on Justice Hill, 2 years ago, it looks like he's finally coming around. He's the pass catching guy. But there's only one name that you really need to focus on and scares the hell out of you, and that's Lamar.
Definitely. I think, again, both running quarterbacks, and I think they're both it's going to be a chess game. Who's going to keep the ball time of possession longer in this game? I think that's what it's going to come down to. Both defenses, Baltimore secondary doesn't look like the normal Baltimore secondary. and Buffalo's secondary is still hurt. Trey's not back. Our one of the rookies is out. So
Benford broke his hand.
Exactly. So we'll see. Both teams could come out and again try to control the clock and just run the crap out of the ball for 40-50 minutes of the game.
Yeah, big time. So that's an interesting one. I'm a Buffalo Bills fan, so I naturally feel that the Bills are gonna come back and make a statement and win this game.
I think just one last thing on this game. I think Baltimore made a mistake. I know all the media pundits were getting on Lamar because he's betting on himself. I think that's the worst thing that you could have done. Lamar looks good this year.
Yeah,
he's got something. He wants to shut everybody up, and I think his worth is going up every game. If he was asking 250 guaranteed before the season, I don't know what he's going to ask for if he ends up winning the MVP this year.
So let me ask you and everybody watching here in the comments section below, if I were to start a franchise and I told you had to pick one quarterback and give him the guaranteed contract of $250 million, would you give it to Lamar or would you give it to Deshaun Watson? Let's remove all that other stuff that I know that, me personally, I have my own reservations about, not in terms of me defending him, but I can't defend him at all, right? So, but just removing that, and I told you can choose between Lamar or Deshaun Watson. Who are you giving that contract to, and who are you giving the franchise to?
I'm definitely taking Lamar. The former MVP. His numbers alone. You could even take out the MVP award a couple seasons ago.
Mm-hmm.
Lamar's rushing alone trumps what anyone else does. We have a running quarterback, and he's gotten much better accuracy wise, and they're giving him weapons. Bateman is good. Duvernay is good. Mark Andrews.
I've been talking about Duvernay for years. Like, why isn't this guy getting touches? He's explosive as hell.
Yeah.
So I'm glad they're finally giving him his worth, right? But you're right. He has a ton of weapons. I feel like they always have the best tight end group in the league collectively that could block and catch. But yeah, it's going to be a tough one. Coming out of Maryland with the win would be amazing. And if you told me that the Bills were, 3-1 with this slate of games in the beginning of the season, I'd take it gladly. So here's hoping. Let's rub the Josh candle, sorry. Let's go to the next game. This is the LA Chargers, who a surprising 1-2. They lost Joey Bosa. That's a big injury for them to a growing. He's going to have surgery. He's on the IR, but they say he should be back this year. And then you have the Houston Texans, who for 2 years, you continually want to poke at them and think that they're the worst team in the league, and all they do is punch back. That record, that means nothing to them. And it shouldn't mean nothing to you when you're looking at these matchups. You look at their commitment to the run. Obviously, I'm a Dameon Pierce manager, so that's music to my ears. But Davis Mills he's fearless. I like him.
Yeah, Mills and the other guy down in Dallas. They love him in Dallas, Cooper Rush. But we'll talk about Cooper later. But again, these young quarterbacks are, I'll probably take Davis Mills over, Matt Ryan, Carson Wentz right now.
100%.
Those type of players.
Yeah.
And again, he really doesn't have many weapons. It's Brandon Cooks. Nico flashes every once in a while. I think Brevin Jordan is still the tight end. But
Brevin Jordan is there. You got OJ Howard.
Yeah. So, but again, this I think the Chargers should be a little bit worried. Again, going into Houston, even though I think this might be a big Eckler game. Because they got to start feeding Eckler, and you can't have Herbert dropping back 40, 50 times a game with that rib. And so I don't know. Houston might surprise this week, but I think the Chargers. I believe this is a 1:00 game. So again, West Coast team coming to play at 1. That's technically 10 o'clock in their mind. So
yeah, but they're going to Houston, right? So it's not that far a trip. I think it's the early start. right? That's
it's the early start, and you know, as not to go into the basketball, Houston probably has the best strip clubs in the country. So
I love it. That's true.
Again, LA guys might be used to that, but when you come to Houston, you know,
that's a different beast.
Yeah. So
would you say that and Atlanta are like the 1 and 2 capital of like strip club capitals of the world?
Definitely. Okay. But Houston, I think, tops it all. You know, Atlanta, they go out. Houston, they go all out.
It's Texas.
I'm just saying.
It's Texas. Yeah. So this game is they still have LA favored at -5.5. Do I hear trap? I
think so. I think it'll be more like a three-point game.
Yeah, and then 45. Another thing with the feisty Texans defense, they got Petra, the safety there. He's really good. They got a lot of nice pieces. Our old friend from Buffalo, Hughes, is there. He's actually doing really well. Lovie Smith, who Lovie Smith defenses are going to show up and teams are going to play well. And Lovie Smith teams are going to be committed to the run, which is exactly what they've done. I like this Houston team, man. I know that they're not going to have many wins when you look up at the end of the year. A big thing to look at on the LA side is that Slater is out. Their left tackle, the guy guarding the guy with the bad ribs, blindside.
Exactly.
Something to look at. And, you know, obviously we talked about the wide receiver, his hamstring.
Keenan's hamstring, right.
So you got Keenan out. And they also lost the other receiver, not Palmer.
Guyton.
Yeah, Guyton is out.
Guyton, yeah.
I don't know how much they were going to use him, but it's, you know, they're a little beat up over there on the LA side. So is this the trap of the week?
Could be.
The next game are the Seattle, you know, led by Geno, going into Detroit. We got the over under at 47.5, and we got Detroit favored by 3.5. Detroit's now without Swift. They're without Amon-Ra St. Brown. They still have the offensive line. They still have Jamal Williams. They still have Goff, if you want to say that. I don't know how much that means to you. They're in a dome. They got Seattle coming in. Does Seattle go 1-3?
I think Seattle goes 1-3. Yeah, they you know, I know Pete. I think Pete Carroll is a troll. You know, I don't think Geno should be dropping back 50, 60 times
at
a
all.
game, and you know what I mean. You're going away. Your defense is pretty decent, but
again, you're overexposing them.
Yeah. Geno's only going to be as good as Geno could be. You know, but I think he's being a troll, trying to, you know, Geno is a better quarterback than Russ. I don't know. I kind of feel bad for Metcalf
and Lockett.
And Lockett, you know, but I believe Lockett was part of the Super Bowl team. I don't think DK has anything, you know.
Yeah.
And again, you got, you know, Penny's running the ball well.
You got a shiny
Penny. Looks promising.
Yeah, you got shiny Penny, and you're going away from him. Like, I don't get it.
Yeah. So, but again, Detroit, MCDC's got those boys playing. As he said, you know, in preseason, I don't care if you got what did he say, one leg and one butt cheek, I'm still gonna whip your ass. He's building. I like what he's doing over there.
Me too. I love it.
Offensive line is a big surprise. You know, golf is even surprising at this point. But again, it's only 3 weeks into the season. Let's see how that translates as the schedule ramps up a little bit and they start playing, you know, the Green Bays, the Minnesotas. Let's see what they look like then. But
yeah, because you can, if I'm not mistaken, that Detroit defense is beatable. Like, you can run on them, right?
Yeah, Akuda, he's stepping up. They got at least one decent corner. But again, they're controlling the line of scrimmage, running the ball, and
so this is the Detroit defense right here. They're 32nd in the league in points.
Right.
They're 27th in the league in yards. They're 25th in pass, 27th. They average. Look, Pete Carroll. They allow 142.3 rushing yards a game. Detroit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Buff that penny. Just hand it off.
Exactly.
That's all you need to do.
Both teams have bad run defense.
Yeah. But I guess if you look at, oh man, yeah, even the red zone defense is terrible. It's just really bad. Oof.
But the problem, the difference between Detroit and Seattle, defenses are bad, but more explosive offense is definitely Detroit.
Detroit has the third in points, offensive wise, fifth in yards. Passing yards is 19th. Their rushing is third. So that's where they make their bread and butter right there. And then you have a Seattle team against the rush who's 30th. Oh man, Jamal Williams is about to have a game. Shooter, shout out to you, brother. Trade him to me.
I do want to point one thing out. The only game last year that Swift was out and both Jamal and Reynolds played together. Reynolds dominated the snaps. Big time. So I know everyone, not to switch over to fantasy, but I know everyone is big on Jamal this week. All the experts are telling you Jamal is going to be an RB1. Khalil Herbert is going to be an RB1. We'll see.
Look, I think to add to that, what we're saying is look for guys to maintain their roles and for the backup to come in and fill in the other role, right? Like the starter's role. So there will still be a split, but don't be surprised if it's Reynolds that's starting with the first team out there. Exactly,
but Jamal's the goal line back, so
right.
And we've seen that with Swift 100% healthy. So we'll see. But I think Detroit wins this one.
Yeah, good call out. The next one is the New York Jets going to Pittsburgh. The 1-2 Pittsburgh Steelers without TJ Watt. He's still out. You have a Zach Wilson, the MILF hunter. You have he's back now, first game of the year. The over under 41.5. You got Pittsburgh favorite, obviously at home. That defense is still substantial. What can we expect from the Zach Wilson led Jets as opposed to what you saw with Flacco?
Less passing volume probably. I don't think he's going to drop back, and they do have a couple decent weapons. Elijah hasn't been involved that much. Mm-hmm. Garrett Wilson looks decent. You got two decent running backs, Carter and I forgot the other guy's name.
Breece Hall. Yeah.
Breece Hall, right. So again, Flacco was slinging it down more downfield. I think Zach Wilson is a little bit more shy. So I see probably a lot more dump offs to the backs and maybe using Conklin more. I don't think he's going to take too many deep shots, especially with Minka coming off of a concussion and being cleared to play this week.
A popular narrative among and I always call out the fantasy experts, especially when they're wrong, because that's why I hate calling myself a fantasy. I would never allow anyone to say that I'm not, because I'm not. But one thing I will say when I'm observing these, it's that the narrative has suddenly flipped. That now that Wilson's back, Elijah Moore, his resurgence is imminent. What do you think about that?
Yeah, definitely. Garrett Wilson is being targeted 10, 12 times a game. I think with Wilson, that's going to be scaled back a little bit. Mm-hmm. I think he's going to try to spread it around a little bit more. So we'll see. The Jets defense might look formidable against a Mitchell Trubisky-led offense. I think this is just going to come down probably to both teams running the ball and hiding their quarterback, especially with Wilson coming first game back this year.
Yeah. Maybe this will be the game where the move for Pittsburgh. Maybe he gets his first score this year. Who knows?
I think so. Pittsburgh, I know all the experts and everyone wants Pickett to start, but I could say there's probably a 2% chance that happens the rest of the year. Tomlin is one of those coaches. He's not a Pete Carroll. He's not a Mike McCarthy where he's going to be at the media. Mm-hmm. And he's adamant that he's sticking with Mitch for the rest of the season.
I love that. Injury. I love that. Regardless of what you think of Kenny Pickett, I think it helps especially for a guy like Mitch to know like this could be your last chance to show that you belong as a starter. Exactly. And I'm not going to pull the rug out from under you. So what are you going to do with it? Exactly. Let's go to the next game. It's the surprising 2-1 Jacksonville Jaguars, who if you look, they could easily be 3-0. And the Philadelphia Eagles, who, I mean, if you look at the power rankings, they're the number 1 team in the league. They've done everything, all facets right. Jalen Hurts looks like an MVP. But you have Doug Peterson heading back into his old haunts, and it's over under 45.5, and you got Philly favored by 6.5. The way they've been beating teams, it's almost like, okay, that's a decent line. But what do you got for this one?
I think this is probably an upset special. I got Jacksonville winning this game. I think it's going to be a lot of running. Philly, yeah, they're 3-0, but I don't know what they did this past week, but I believe the first two weeks, all their points have been put up in the first half. They don't score much in the second half. So if you're able to compete with them in the first half and keep it close, I think it's going to be a good game. I think 6.5 is a little bit too much, but I actually think Jacksonville might pull off the upset.
So
especially with Peterson coming back. I wonder if they're going to boo Peterson or not. That's the other thing.
Week 1, Eagles-Lions. Eagles had 38, Lions had 35, and if you recall, they didn't score much in the second half. It was the Lions who were coming back to that game. Week 2, it was that Vikings game on Monday night. They were up 24-7. The Vikings had nothing, no answers, and you have primetime Kirk, so that was always working against them. And then you had the Eagles at the Commanders, and you had Carson Wentz, right? So that was 24-8. And you're right. I think most of the scoring, I have Dallas Goddard. They just sat him for the rest of the game, and his shin was fine, right?
Exactly.
That you're probably onto something there. It's early. I do see that, although rightfully so, Eagles fans are now saying that they're the Super Bowl pick. It's too early for all that stuff. Like, even as a Bills fan, I hate when I hear we're the favorite to go to the Super Bowl. Like, man, let's focus on this week. I'm not even trying to hear that right now. That's for the people in the media to kind of constantly debate. Jackson. And speaking,
I don't mean to cut you off, but speaking of Goddard, I saw something interesting the other day, and I didn't take it with a grain of salt, but in my opinion, for as long as I've been watching football, and it's probably been about 29, 30 years.
I think
the tight end I grew up watching was Tony G.
Tony Gonzalez. I heard what you said. Yeah.
And when Tony G basically called Goddard the best NFL tight end right now, not fantasy tight end, but NFL. Yeah. So that's high praise from one of the GOATs, if not
the standard, right? Because you have because when you're thinking about a move tight end, you think of Shannon Sharp, but you never really think of him as a blocker. Like, he was a capable blocker and he was good, right? Right. But when you think of the best all-around tight end, you think of Tony Gonzalez.
Yep.
Right? Because and like you said, it's the stuff that doesn't show up in fantasy that they do, like blocking.
Exactly.
And I've always liked Dallas Goddard. I had him last year, even when Ertz was there. And this year, I just felt like you're adding an AJ Brown. It's only going to help a guy like Dallas Goddard, especially in an offense that designs plays for the tight end. See, you have offenses like Arizona, where Ertz is only as useful as the wide receiving core that Kyler has around him, but they're not calling plays for Ertz.
No,
right? Like, if Hopkins is there, Hollywood is there, and all of the complement, Ertz is going to be irrelevant most of the weeks.
Right.
Dallas Goddard, it doesn't matter if Smith is killing it, if AJ Brown is killing it, because he has his assortment of plays that are going to go to him.
Exactly.
So that's why when Tony Gonzalez said that, I was like, oh, it made me feel better about having him as a tight end, because it's not flashy.
No.
But if I could get 6 to 8 points weekly from my tight end in fantasy, that's good enough.
Exactly.
Right? Especially with the price that you're paying for someone like a Dallas Goddard, as opposed to taking a Mark Andrews, which you're going to get what you pay for. But in this game, I'm with you. I think Peterson, I think Peterson's game plan is going to be to corral Hurts. Don't let him outside the pocket. Force him to make those decisions to prove it, right? Like, you're not going to be able to do what you do normally, especially with those edge rushers. People, if you don't know who those edge rushers, there's another Josh Allen in the league that's really good. And the Jacksonville #1 pick, Walker, who a lot of people really scoffed at when they didn't take a Thibodeau or whoever else they should have taken first. This team is good. This team's got talent. This is one of the games I definitely am going to have fun watching for sure.
Yep.
The next game is a division game. We got the Commanders going to Dallas to face the vaunted Cooper Rush and the Dallas Cowboys. You got that 1-2 punch in the backfield that looks like it's working as is. Maybe for fantasy, you still have a little Zeke juice left, right? Pollard is doing that role well. That offensive line looks like it's playing really good. The one thing that stands out to me, and I don't know if I messaged y'all because I have a chat with you and Shooter, but Cooper Rush is a good quarterback.
Cooper Rush is creating some controversy down in Dallas. I was on a work trip last week and stopped by one of the bars downtown Dallas, and I want to say it was probably a 60-65% split that they actually want Cooper to remain the starter, whether Dak is healthy or not.
Wow.
They really like Cooper down there. So
I just think he's decisive as hell. He drops back, makes his reads. Look, let me tell you, if you look at that box score last week, that doesn't tell the full picture because there was a lot of drop passes, a lot of big plays that were left on that field.
Right.
And he was making the right reads. This is a division game, prime time, Monday night, and he didn't even blink.
I think that's more. Kellen Moore, I think, is the OC there.
Yeah.
I think he's got more influence on Cooper Rush than Mike McCarthy and Mike McCarthy's play call. Because again, I think it was 4th and 12. That another thing people were still bringing up is that it's 4th and 12 and Dak decides to run it last year and pretty much kind of cost them the season. You know what I mean? And they're like, fire McCarthy at this point because they're not big fans of McCarthy. Me personally, I was never a big fan of McCarthy ever since he was in Green Bay because you got Aaron Jones and you never fed him. And then
let me tell you something. Aaron Rodgers is the kingmaker.
Yeah.
Because look at Hackett over there in Denver. Suddenly he's not looking so smart.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm with you on that, and I've never believed in him either. What on the Washington side? What do you think Washington needs to do to kind of take this one from Dallas? Because I have Dallas winning this one.
It's gonna come down to defense, and again, without Chase Young, I don't believe Chase Young is back, so that's hurting Washington a lot, in my opinion.
They're saying next week is when he can start practicing with them.
Yeah, so he's not gonna play this week, so I don't want to get too far ahead. And Washington is a decent team in my opinion, but again, going into Dallas division game, that's why they're only favored by 3. But I think it comes down to who's the better quarterback, and again, I'll take Cooper Rush any day of the week, twice on Sunday over Carson Wentz.
It's because with Carson Wentz, you cannot guarantee that he's going to give you a clean game.
Well, he's always going to give you at least 2-3 dumb plays that you're scratching your head every game. Like I don't understand it, but we'll see. But yeah, I think this is more of a Pollard Zeke game.
I got something else for you too. So I was looking on Twitter, infamous last words for everybody. So I was looking on Twitter and I saw Jahan Dotson was a second-round pick or first-round pick for the Commanders, right?
Yeah.
Wide receiver from Penn State. And there was a video of him saying last year that what's that star lineman for the Cowboys, number 11?
Lionel Collins?
No, the defensive, the star, the
Parsons.
Parsons, yeah. So Micah Parsons, right? So he said that he doesn't even hit that hard, and Parsons retweeted that and said, "I hope he goes to the NFC East when he gets drafted." I didn't know that. You better believe the NFL, the football gods will somehow make it that Parsons is dropping back, because you know he kind of plays that edge hybrid. They'll drop him back sometimes. It will happen that Dotson comes across the middle.
Yeah.
Parsons will hit him.
Yeah.
Trust and believe, if it's not this game, it'll be in the next game that they play, because it's 2 games. That's why he wanted 2 games. If there's one game where Parsons is going to show out or start his, he probably has this one circled on his calendar.
Exactly. Yeah, these division games are interesting as the seasons go on.
Yeah. So rule of thumb: just don't shake the hive. Don't mess with it. Just leave it alone. Dotson might learn the hard way this Sunday. But we got Dallas. Let's move on to this one. We got the surprising 2-1 Cleveland Browns, who can easily be 3-0 if they wouldn't have botched that Jets game. So, for them, their story is, how in it can Jacoby keep them until Watson comes in, right? And so far, it's so good.
Correct.
You do have the big story out of this matchup, where their best lineman, he was in that car accident.
Myles Garrett.
Yeah, Myles Garrett. That car was flipped over. It looked crazy afterward. So he's officially ruled out of this game. And I don't know if you have the other talented linemen. Damn, all names escape me today. But there are other,
Jadavion, I don't think is playing either.
Yeah, Clowney's out too. So you're down to essentially your backup line there against Atlanta. And, that's a team that wants to run the ball. Cordero's dealing with a knee. So, but it's in Atlanta. You got the over-under at 47.5. Last week, you had Amari Cooper's essentially breakout game as a Brown. Jacoby Brissett looked really good running that team, and then you have Njoku, who was also adding some weaponry there, because that their 2 running backs are going to show up. You got Cleveland favored away on this one, but it's only 1, so it's essentially a pick 'em. What do you got for this one?
I think it's going to come down to Cordell's knee. If he's able, because I believe Williams is on IR. Algier, the rookie, he looks okay.
Yeah.
So I think, and Mariota might start having to use his legs a little bit more, especially with those 2 defensive linemen out. But again, on the Cleveland side, still, in my opinion, you still got the best running back tandem in the league. I know people are starting to give Dallas a lot of credit for Zeke and Pollard, but I think it's a different style running game. And Chubb's probably been the most consistent running back in the NFL, not fantasy wise, but NFL ready, NFL wise. Chubb's a monster. And then when you have to deal with Hunt coming out the backfield,
to add to your point, the Browns are the number 1 rushing team in the league, 190.7 rushing yards a game,
and that's expected. That's expected without Watson. Let's see if that number again. Hopefully they'll still be in competition or have a above 500 winning record by week 12 or 13, and then we'll see if that Russian success continues with when Watson comes back or not.
Yeah, that'll be something to monitor there. But if Cleveland could come out of this 3-1, that'll be big. Atlanta's been in every game they played so far, right? It's not like they've been feisty team. They have a really good corner over there, Terrell. So what happens with Amari Cooper in this game, right? So something to note there. In this one, it's a toss up. It's a pick 'em. I'm gonna go with Cleveland, because I feel like that run game is just too good.
I probably would go Cleveland too, but it wouldn't shock me if Mariota goes off 2 rushing touchdowns and
especially with the Myles Garrett and Clowney tandem not being there. Yeah, big time. Next game we have is the Arizona Cardinals against the Carolina Panthers, led by Baker Mayfield, the number 1 pick a few years ago, who Skip Bayless still somehow loves sniffing his butthole for some damn reason. I don't get it, man. I personally think that Baker Mayfield should be a backup quarterback in the league. I don't think he belongs as a starter, and I don't understand how he's still a starter in this league. Don't, call me a hater, whatever you want, but I've seen football a long time, just like everybody else has. I've never seen such an overrated number one pick like I have. Like he's yeah, whatever. But Kyler Murray, who's essentially doing it with Dortch as his number one weapon. AJ Green is out. You got Hollywood, who's dealing with an injury this week. Kyler, 314 passing yards last week. The touchdowns just aren't there. But you're going to Carolina. You got Carolina, who's dealing with CMC, dealing with his quad. You got Baker. You have DJ Moore. You saw that? What was happening with DJ Moore? Like now the media is making an excuse for Baker Mayfield, saying that the receivers aren't getting open. And DJ Moore kind of pushed back and said, well, in the NFL, open is one step.
Yeah.
Right? Like
it comes down to the quarterback, whether he wants to throw it or not.
Exactly. And I think I'll side with DJ Moore on this, because that's historically been the knock on Mayfield.
Yeah, I feel bad for DJ Moore, just like I did feel bad for the past 2 years for Allen Robinson. I think basically they're the same player. Their talent is being wasted. Robbie is Robbie, but again, your offense. In my opinion, Matt Rule should have never came back to coach.
I agree.
Your offense should run through CMC and only CMC. Should never come down to the quarterback. But so I think that's their Achilles heel. I can see Kyler having a big game this week. Again, guy's thrown, like you said, 314 yards last week, and he's he doesn't really have a true number one. I don't consider Hollywood being a true number one, even though he's claimed to be that in Baltimore, and I think he's just filling that role until Hopkins comes back. Even where he's lining up, they're lining him up on the left side most games. I think like 90% of the time he's lining up on the left side, and that's where D-Hop lines up. So it's going to be interesting where they move him. Is he going to go to the right side, or is he going to go in the slot when come week 7 when Hopkins comes back?
Which is where he should be.
Exactly. But again, Kyler's throwing for 314, and Dorsch is your leading wide receiver. Just imagine when Rondell and Hopkins are back, and Ertz, isn't. I think Ertz is hurt a little bit. I think that was his it was
a calf. He came into the year with a bad calf, so yeah, for sure, something to look at. And they still haven't activated that rookie tight end, McBride, which goes to show you how hard it is what Pitts did last year, where it's an anomaly to have a rookie tight end come in and produce like he did last year. But McBride is going to be nice in the future for them. But this year, I don't even think they're going to get anything from him. But what's funny? The reason and another reason I cited the experts is because all I see now is buy low on Kyler Murray. Like I'm going to sell low on Kyler. Like I have Kyler. Like if somebody comes to me and tries to lowball me for Kyler, like I don't know what I have, right? This guy put up 314 yards on the Rams defense. Right. With
no true number one.
And I'm done doubting him. I was doubting him last year, and Pooty almost rode him to the play. He did ride him to the playoffs, right? I'm done doubting him. He's just a dynamic player. What he does it differently, but he does it very well.
Exactly. And then their run game. Speaking of run game, we know what Carolina could do in the run game when they get their shit together. But when Connor isn't giving you those touchdowns, when you're not getting in the red zone that much, and Connor's not producing, they don't need to stack the box that much. Connor looks a little bit slower, at least.
He does, right?
Step slower to me. So, and I don't think they trust Eno that much.
He's just a change of pace guy.
Exactly. So. We'll see, but I think Arizona will win this one.
Okay, me too. I'm gonna pick Arizona because solidarity. My boy Kyler, let's go, baby. The next game is one of those maddening ones, right? Because you have Denver, who should be 3-0. Let's face it, Seattle might not win another game for a while, and who's poorly managed. That team, I feel so bad that they have to deal with Hackett. He is a terrible coach. If you're a Buffalo fan, you know about him. And if you're a Green Bay fan, you saw this is what I say about these offensive coordinators that get these jobs. Dable got a job as a head coach because of Josh Allen. right? But let me tell you, Josh Allen, there were so many different plays that Dable called that Josh Allen turned into something that I'm sure Dable got the credit for. We're going to learn what he's about this year. Maybe Dable is a little bit of a better coach than Hackett. Hackett is a terrible coach. Again, Aaron Rodgers created that opportunity for him.
Exactly.
And you're seeing all of the timeouts they have to call because the play isn't in on time. The clock mismanagement. The other day where Peyton Manning was like this on how many timeouts? 46 times. And Peyton was like, what are they doing? It makes no sense what Hackett is doing, and Denver's still 2-1.
Exactly.
Now they're going into Vegas, who's 0-3. Vegas desperately needs to get on the win column this week.
Yeah.
And if there's one team that's being managed worse, it's one of Belichick's guys. Who think about all the Belichick coaches in his coaching tree.
Yeah.
The most successful one to me isn't even coaching in the league. Flores.
Yeah, Flores. The only other person I think he wasn't. I give the guy in Tennessee a little bit of
credit.
Oh yeah,
Vrabel is the best.
Vrabel. You know, they were the number 1 seed in the AFC last year. I think Vrabel always has his team ready, no matter how much or how little talent he has.
Yeah.
So
Vrabel notwithstanding, let's put Vrabel to the side. Let's look at the rest of the coaching tree.
Yeah.
Flores is better than. I'll take Flores over the Vegas coach now.
Yeah.
Because we've been there, done that. We've been there, done that with him.
That's true. Yeah. Well, I mean, when your owner calls you in to a closed door meeting after 3 weeks, you're 0-3 with, you just brought in probably, in my eyes, the best wide receiver in the league. You're 0-3.
You got a run game. You got a decent defense. You got a quarterback, a franchise quarterback. Where are the excuses now?
Yeah.
And it falls on the coach. It falls on the coach. And we have a Vegas Raiders fan in our league, Shooter. And Shooter even said we miss Gruden. You imagine Gruden with a Devontae Adams?
Yeah.
In this one, I honestly don't know what to think. The over-under is 45.5. They got Vegas favored by 2.5, and I just think that goes to show you what they think of Hackett and how Denver's playing right now. But man, this is a hard one to call right here because do we throw away what we've seen the first 3 weeks and we kind of let these coaches settle into what they're gonna do, or is this what they are?
Yeah, I'm hoping for my sake and my fantasy team's sake that Russ doesn't give a shit about what Hackett says and starts playing like this last game. I actually liked what his fantasy numbers weren't that great, but
yeah,
Russ has got to get creative. I think one of his best plays was when he got out of the pocket.
When he started freestyling.
Freestyle. Hey, he's not running that much. I believe I think he had like 8 rushing. I think he had 8 rushing yards last game, but not much. But you got to step out of the pocket a little bit. Move away and use those playmakers. And again, they're still getting healthy. I think KJ Hamler, gets ramped back up. They'll be okay.
Mm-hmm.
Albert O, Judy's been banged up a little bit, and Sutton is only going to continue getting better. So
big time.
We'll see. We'll see. I think this game might end up being a shootout, depending on Denver does have a good team. I think Denver is top 5 defensively across the board.
They're second in points, 3rd in total yards, 4th in passing yards, 6th against the run. So that was expected, right? We knew they were going to have a good defense. Yeah. What's surprising is that they're 31st in points. They're 17th in total yards on offense, 20th in passing, and they're still middle of the pack, 13th in rushing. But you think that with Russ, that would have changed everything, because otherwise, why get rid of a Bridgewater or whoever was there last year, right?
Exactly.
On the Vegas side, decent offense, kind of middling, 11th in points, 18th total yards, 10th passing, 29th in rushing. That is crazy. 80 rushing yards a game is what they average. On a defensive side, if you look at their points, they're 23rd, 20th in yards, 24th in passing yards, and 14th in rushing yards. So not a good Vegas defense. You thought that with the addition of Jones, that would kind of help stabilize not only the sacks, right? But, those guys like Chandler Jones, they can stop the run. But it's an interesting matchup. 31st in points for the Denver Broncos heading into week 4 is not what we all expected. Right. But you expect that to turn around. Like, will Russ just say F it and just do his thing? Exactly. I guess that's something to monitor. I'm not sold on whether or not he will. Not yet. Because Hackett is just really bad. But who you got in that game?
I got Denver. I don't want to say I want to see McDaniels get fired, but I don't know, man. You got the best wide receiver in the league. You got a top 3 tight end, top 5 tight end. The rushing, like you said, they're 29th. Maybe they should make a change, if you know what I mean.
It happened to be somebody on your bench.
They got a beast. They got a beast back there, but
yeah,
we'll see. But it wouldn't surprise me if they lose 1 or 2 more and McDaniels goes back to his old stomping ground up in Foxborough.
Yeah, I agree with. Well, he doesn't deserve a head coaching job personally.
And again, the players, who knows if he's bringing in that Belichick mind, the style of coaching and doing things weird in the locker room and curfews and stuff. And if you lose your locker room, you start losing the locker room when you're 0-4, 0-5, 1-6. You lose the locker room, it's a wrap. Those players aren't gonna, especially with players that contracts are coming up, they're not gonna want to put their livelihood on the line for a coach that's not a coach's player
at all. Let's move on to the next game. We have the New England Patriots 1-2 going to Green Bay, who Green Bay looks like they've kind of gotten their footing a little bit after that start in Minnesota week 1. The over-under is at 40.5. We got Green Bay favored by -9. Favored by 9. The big story here is that Mac Jones, is dealing with that high ankle sprain. He was pretty much crying last week, and then essentially he's going to be the hero. It sounds like he's going to give it a go. He's a game-time decision. If not, the legendary Brian Hoyer is going to be the starting quarterback. They're also just announced today, as of Saturday, that their number 1 receiver, Myers, isn't playing either. So you're dealing with the backup quarterback, and you have a Parker who's leading the pack there. In Green Bay, this is going to be a tough one, and I expect New England's game plan to be, let's keep it away from them. Let's run that rock.
Yeah, it's. I think Belichick. We all know Belichick is going to try to eliminate your best player, and your best player is 12, and then
Jones and Dillon, that combo. Yeah.
Yeah. So stack the box and let the whether it's Dobbs, whether it's Lazard, whether
I like that 45. Name. What's that second name you said?
Allen Lazard.
Hey, why does that sound familiar?
and. Interesting stats I saw the other day. Randall Cobb is averaging 9.8 yards per target. Randall Cobb. It's pretty good for a guy that's been, and he's been doing it for a while, and I'm pretty sure he's over 30 years old. That's pretty good.
Wasn't he number 2 in receiving for them last week?
I think so. So again, if Dobbs continues doing what we saw last week, Lazard I don't think is 100% fully healthy, but if he gets going,
but the thing that's encouraging a Lazard is like that 90+% snap share.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
Right, yeah. but and then the routes run and all that, but I still think they're easing his involvement in the offense.
Yeah. Lazard and Tunyon are gonna both coming off of injuries. I think once they get back to full health, I think Green Bay is again a team to look out for. Mm-hmm. It's just gonna come down in that division. What Kirk Cousins? How many primetime Kirk Cousins games are you gonna get? And if he could, keep it competitive enough. Green Bay still might end up winning this division with, again, not a true number one wide receiver.
Yeah. You got your feisty Detroit to the world that'll make it a little bit tough, but once you have 12, you're going to be fine.
Exactly.
So I'm going to take a Green Bay in this one. I think that it comes down to one thing that's always followed Hoyer, and it's just at some point he'll make that throw. At some point he'll hold on to the ball a little too long, and then that's where that sack fumble or that pick comes into play, and then you're going to force the Patriots to play from behind and throw the ball. Even though I don't like Mac Jones, I don't think that he's all that great. I think he gives you a better shot than Hoyer does. So I'm going to go with Green Bay on this one.
Me too.
Let's move on to the Sunday night game. This is a doozy, man. This is a good one. It's the Kansas City Chiefs, who just lost to the Colts, surprisingly, against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They're coming off a loss against the Green Bay Packers, who we were just talking about. A very impressive win for the Packers, a disappointing loss, but then you also think about Tampa, and you don't like to make excuses for anyone, especially coming from a Bills fan. We don't use excuses, we just use facts. They didn't have any of their starting receivers. You got Brady essentially playing with one hand behind his back. Brady's already playing with a kind of pieced together offensive line. So you got a lot of things to go around. Kansas City, week one, they looked like they were world beaters. All of a sudden, they look like that wide receiver by committee might not be as advertised. So what do you got for this one?
I think it's going to come down to what can Kansas City do in the middle of the field. Basically, is how big of a game can Kelsey have? Because Kelsey opens it up for Juju, Sky Moore. I think Hardman. Is injured. But again, Kansas City has a lot of weapons. It's just gonna be how well the Tampa Bay offensive line holds up.
Big time, because Tampa's defense is number one in the league in scoring, fourth in the league in yards, 13th against the pass, 5th against the run, which is a surprise to no one. And then the Kansas City offense is top 10 in everything, points. I mentioned Kansas City and Josh moves up a little bit. You got total yards 9th, passing yards 9th, and rushing yards 22nd. So is this the Leonard Fournette game?
I think again, I don't know if it's coach speak or not, but Todd Bowles is trying to involve all three running backs.
I heard about Rashad White.
Rashard and Nathan brought up Keyshawn Vaughn, so we'll see. I don't know if that's something to keep Lenny fresh, because his hamstring always acts up.
Yeah.
But we'll see. They might again try to run the ball and keep it out of Patrick's hand. But if I had to pick who, I would probably pick Tampa. I think they'll come out a little with a little more fight in them, because of all the stuff that's been happening down in that area for the past couple of days.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's always a big narrative. And then you got Mike Evans coming back, who that's going to help.
Evans coming back. I think Godwin might be a game-time decision.
Julio's coming back, right? Even though he's playing with a torn whatever it is he's playing with.
Yeah, the thing is with Julio is it could be 3 plays, it could be 15 plays, or he might. I think the chances of Julio giving you a whole game is not at a high percentage at this point. I think Julio. I love Julio as a player. It's just I don't know. I think Julio injuries have caught up to him, and I think it's a wrap for him. But.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I'm also I'm gonna give the edge to Tampa, only because that defense is just so good. And that defense could play against anyone. So, and they're in Tampa. It's like you said, that narrative, like that, that overcoming, that's going to be a big one. And then Brady after a loss, that's always a thing. Exactly. So it's going to be a fun one. I will say that.
Yep.
Moving on to the last one, the Monday night game, we got the LA Rams going to San Francisco to play the Niners. Remember that in the regular season, the Niners have the Rams number. It's always been like that. And last year, one could argue that they were just a mismanagement away from actually going to the Super Bowl. But the Rams beat them in the playoffs. So plenty of narratives to go around. I think the biggest one is Jimmy G. The way he played against Denver was disappointing. It's a good Denver defense that he's facing, but still, he was in the end zone, and he exonerated Dan Orlovsky with running in the back of the end zone. And then not only did he have a safety trying to throw the ball way in the back of the end zone, but he also threw a pick six on that play. Luckily it didn't count, but that was crazy, bro. Exactly. Yeah, so Jimmy G, up to Jimmy G things. You got the running back situation. So you got Jeff Wilson Jr. Like, the Niners need the run game in this one.
They always need a run game, but I think for the next 4 weeks they're gonna have a hard time running the ball. When you lose Trent Williams, that's huge.
So huge. Add to that injury, then now George Kittle might need to stay to block more.
Yeah, he stays and blocks more. This is where he gets injured, and he's a great tight end, but that takes away from his fantasy and overall production for the team. So again, losing an offensive lineman of that stature is definitely going to show up in the run game and protecting Jimmy.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough one. On this one, regular season, 42.5. They got the Niners favored by 1 because they're home. That's the only reason they're doing that.
Exactly.
But I'm going to take the Rams.
Me too.
The Trent Williams loss is going to be big. You got Aaron Donald on that line. you have, if not the best left tackle in the game, he's top 3.
Definitely.
And that's big. That you can't just replace that. I don't care who you put in there. And the Niners are really good with offensive linemen. And as good as that Niners defense is, I just, the Rams don't think that Coach McVay doesn't know that regular season, historically, they've had his number.
Exactly. Yeah, I think they're gonna come after Jimmy all game.
Yeah.
So, I would definitely take the Rams as well.
Yeah, and there you have it. That's our slate of games. Anything else you want to add before we sign off, man? I appreciate you joining us. Thank you so much.
No, it's good to be back. Always a fun time being on here, discussing football in general, not necessarily just fantasy. Mm-hmm. But yeah, just to touch up fantasy. It's a long season. Good luck to everyone. Season officially starts this week. First 3 weeks of preseason is over. Good luck to everyone. It's going to come down, like P said, roster management, injuries, bye weeks, all that good stuff. And I posted it on the chat the other night. The 3-0 teams are extremely humble in this league. Not much talking been going on. The 0-2, the 0-3 teams, one of them is a champion. He rarely talks on the chat. The other 0-3 team had the best draft grade, and I think his activity has declined in the past.
Tapered a little bit.
Week. So I think it's just 5 of us that's actively on the chat. Again, shout outs to John. Hopefully everything's good with in the house down there. I do have one thing that I wanted you to kind of cap off is in our chat with Shooter. I think you forgot to include a post that you put every year, and it goes to our activity in the chat. Is let's not forget that this is about fun. Let's have fun. Exactly.
It's football.
Exactly. This post again, I forgot to add it, or maybe our Yahoo app wouldn't allow me to add certain I guess formats of pictures and won't let me upload it. But the message that I wanted to put out there before week 1 was important reminder as we approach the NFL season. Fantasy football is supposed to be fun. Ruining friendships, tearing apart families, chirping at players on social media, losing more money than you can afford to. That's not fun. Know your limits, keep it light, and most importantly, have fun. We only do this 4 months of the year. I know me personally, I wait 6 months until we start ramping things back up, doing a draft order, doing all of that stuff. So nothing should be taken personal. I think we're all mature enough not to come, sideways at someone else or someone else's family. We all have fun. We don't punch below the belt. We all talk shit. Just part of the game, and we only get to do this 4 months of the year. Like I said, just have fun. Don't get down on yourself. That's not, if you lose or if you're in 0-3, you're not it's not like you're a loser in life. You know what I mean? Life should be a lot. It's a lot more to it than fantasy football. You're not a loser in life. So what, man? We don't throw the ball. We don't coach these players.
Yeah.
We sit behind a computer and pick random players. So just don't get down on yourself. And whether you win or lose, we only have fun. And this is a brotherhood. John, JC, first time with us, but like I told the guys in the chat separately, like, you guys are like my brothers, man. I have 10 other brothers that I know I could call me for anything. I'm there, for whether it's for you, for your family, for your kids.
Big time.
Just keep it light, have fun. Don't take nothing personal. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Alex, 1,500 ain't gonna cut it. You know what I'm talking about now.
Yo, can you share a little bit of that? Can you share a little bit? Because I wasn't at the draft. At that time, I had the Rona, so I wasn't able to attend the draft. But I heard that London was in rare form, and there was a little bit of collusion talk.
Yeah, so he was a little bit under the influence. This was after the draft, and I walk in as he's halfway through his story, and he was saying, another team looks like they're on their way to win a chip, and they need that extra push, that extra player. And he might have that player on his team, and if someone comes to him and they offer him half of the pot, which is a little bit more than 1,500, that he would do it. And so I sat down as I was getting food from the kitchen. I sat down and actually asked him to repeat it again in front of everybody. He actually did, and I think halfway, 3/4 into repeating it, I think it registered to him what he was saying and who he was saying it to. And I looked at him, I was like, that's collusion. He goes, no, it's not. So three of us had to sit there and explain to him what collusion was. And actually, it's funny because yesterday was the first time I saw him face to face since the draft. And he didn't understand what the $1,500 meant when I kept posting it on the board, and I explained it to him. And I actually believe him. He couldn't remember saying that. And I honestly believe him. He's not that type of person that would collude or do any of that. So, but I did remind him that the microscope is on him, and if any trade comes down in the next couple of weeks or for the remainder of the season, it would be yes, magnifying glasses for sure. So.
That is so London though, right? Because he innocently said that. Like
exactly.
Everyone in the league, I think that he's the one person that gets the mulligan from me, because there's no ill intent with him, right? He's just like saying it, right? But yeah, that is collusion. Everybody in the comment section below, let us know whether or not you feel that is collusion. I know what my vote is.
And again, to kind of go back to the previous topic, again, I love London for being a great sport. You know what I mean? Even though he didn't understand, and he knew that we were talking about him. He didn't take it to heart. You know what I mean? There's, again, all of us have been playing this game very long enough to understand that take shots at each other, but it's not diminishing your character. It's not. Yeah.
This is not. It's not an indictment on who you are as a person. We don't attach your success to this league to you or your success as a person. So right. we know to compartmentalize and separate it. And I think that's the beauty of this league and everybody in it, for the most part. That's what, but it's fun to reiterate that it sucks to lose. I will say that it sucks to lose. But it's how do we handle it, and how do we make it fun regardless? Because you think about those months where we don't have this and where we wish we had this, and think about that when we're kind of in this fog of damn, whatever, my record isn't what it should be. I'm talking to Pootie. It's like, nah, I'm talking no, but he's a great sport too. I think I appreciate you saying that, and I wanted to give you a chance to say that on here because you post that every year, and it serves as a good reminder that no one in this league is null and void from getting that trash talk. I always tell y'all that I learned the most during my losses. I learned the most about myself as a competitor and as a participant in this league. And last year I grew the most because I was able to say, I'm 0-6, who cares, right? Like, I'm still here. I'm gonna still have fun with y'all, whether or not I'm successful. So I do appreciate you sharing that, and you always kind of reminding us that this is fake football. We don't throw, we don't run, we don't coach, we just observe and we plug people in lineups. That's it.
Exactly. And then the luck factor, obviously.
Yeah. Even though, like, we're gonna have to get your premium subscription. We're gonna need to. We're gonna need something from you, man.
It's a lot. Fantasy is a part-time job for me. I'll be honest. I enjoy it that much. I wish I would have a venue to kind of get into some type of not to be a fantasy expert, but just to play in more. Now, our league is very competitive, but I would love to go up against the Matthew Berrys, the Brad Evans, the Liz Lozers of the world, and get in their league and actually test my. Okay, I might be decent in this league, but how do I match up against the so-called experts?
Yeah, the elites of the world. Yeah. I'm with. Hey, I'd vouch for you on that. Let's get a petition going.
Yeah, shit. I'll go be the ball boy for the Buffalo Bills for a year or two. Because again, I think that's where a lot of these young coaches, that's how they started out. Being the ball boy. Internships.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. Field Yates, I think, just signed one of the biggest contracts by ESPN, and he started out as a nobody for the Patriots and just moved his way up. But again, to go back, everybody should have tough skin, man. These 3-0 teams, you guys are undefeated right now, but you lose one or two, we're coming at you for your lineup decisions, for your waiver wire pickups.
We're coming.
You overspend on the waiver on your waiver wire. I'm coming for you. I'm coming at you. And again, just know no one is immune. We're all going to take shots at each other, but again, it shouldn't diminish our friendship or the way we see each other.
Big time. I mean? Yeah.
Life. There's a lot more to life than fantasy football, even during these 4 months. You know what I mean? I don't care if I go 12-0, 13-0, win a championship, but my little man is sick or dealing with something, or my daughter's being bullied in school. That trumps everything. 13-0, winning the championship don't mean shit. Money don't mean shit.
Yeah.
Our health, our family's health, all of everyone else. Again, not to prolong this. I'm playing John this week, knowing what John is going through down there, and hearing that he doesn't have power or internet for the most part. He had a little bit of power, I guess. His phone was charged up. I was trying to keep him updated as much as possible by sending him screenshots as the Thursday night game was going on, just to keep him informed.
Damn. Yeah.
But that doesn't, and I've only met John once. He's been playing with us for 10 plus years.
Yeah.
The one time meeting him, I know he's a good dude.
It's funny how he was brought into the league by a person that I was really cool with second year in the league, and he was just brought in because I knew John, and I always knew John was a solid guy. It's just funny how he's endeared himself to the rest of the league, and how time flies, right? Look at us now, we're 10 years plus, and hopefully we keep this going so that my son could take over one day, right?
Exactly. But the point of me bringing up John again, like I said, doesn't matter if I'm playing him. He's probably one of my biggest rivals. He's got me a couple times. He beat me in a championship a couple times. I usually don't like him the week that I'm playing him because of the trash talk and this and that. But again,
he steps it up.
That's not going to stop me from thinking about him and his family. Again, I met him and his kids, so I know having kids, if I have no power in the house, I know those kids are driving me off the fucking wall. You know what I mean? So I tried to keep it light, send them the score just to keep him updated and keep his mind off of how my, is my meat and going to get spoiled and milk getting spoiled and kids are driving me. Just keep it fun in games. Doesn't matter, man. We're all it's like a brotherhood. I honestly feel like I love all of you guys.
Yeah, same. Yeah, and that's why we do this show, because this league deserves it. Everybody in this league deserves it, and we're gonna. I'll try as best I could to continue this. I know I've been traveling, so it's been really hard, and to sync up my schedule with Ryan. So that's why I'm thankful that Ryan's like, yo, go ahead and do it. Sometimes Ryan tells me, hey, sometimes I like hearing the pod from somebody else's perspective, right? Like I like being surprised, and it kind of gives him a break too, right? Just to focus on his life and everything else that goes on.
Exactly.
So we're gonna continue doing this. The one common thing is that I can do this at any moment, and I appreciate your flexibility. Thank you for joining us. Hopefully you don't win this year, because I think 4 is kind of good for right now. But I know you got that 5 on your mind.
There's a couple tough teams in this league this year. Like I said, I take it as a part-time job. I have a lot of work to do. And judging by last week, putting up 65 points is not going to get you anywhere. Especially in this league, especially with the teams, the 2-3 teams that, in my opinion, no matter what the record is, it's going to take a lot more work to get to the promised land.
I agree.
Winning a championship in this league is not easy.
No, and especially lately. So thank you so much, Mike, for joining us. Feel free to come on anytime you want. Obviously, with our schedules, I'm probably going to lean on you and some other people from the league to kind of pitch in. But thank you all for listening. In the comment section below, let us know what you think. Anything that we've talked about, join in on the chat. We'll welcome anyone to join in. I will want to say that this episode, all of the music that you're listening to in the background is produced by Infamy. I got to shout him out, Infamy Sounds. On social media, check him out. There's a lot of projects that he's coming out in, and he's only going to get more exclusive as time goes. But I'm thankful that he's like, yo, use my catalog. I don't care. So for Mike, I'm P. That's the Fantasy Standard.